Picture this: palm-fringed beaches, bustling markets, and charming cobblestone streets, all while enjoying your retirement in a different country. Retirement abroad offers a myriad of possibilities, and many Americans are considering relocating. In today's episode, we're going to embark on a journey to explore retiring in a different country with Edd and Cynthia Staton, recognized experts on retiring abroad. Edd and Cynthia, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you guys on the show today and talk to us about retiring abroad. So many of our readers at Go Banking Rates are interested in retiring abroad. And I wanted to see if maybe you could tell us why people should retire abroad and why you guys decided to retire abroad.
Well, thanks for having us, Jaime. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, we sure are. It's funny, your question, why we decided to retire abroad, we didn't actually decide. It was decided for us.
What? How did that happen, Ed?
This wasn't some long-planned dream. We were, just to give you a quick backstory, we were living in Las Vegas. And by the way, we've lived here for 14 years abroad. We were living in Las Vegas at the peak of our careers. Everything was going great. Had a retirement plan we thought solid in place at just a few years from retirement. And then 2008 happened, which the Great Recession hurt a lot of people. In our case, we not only lost our jobs, we lost our whole industries that we worked in. Our home lost 2/3 of its value almost overnight. Our investments and savings were in free fall. We were in a really tough situation.
We had to come up with a plan B.
Yeah, plan A wasn't
It sounds like it, you guys. It sounds like it. That's horrible.
Well, I mean, we tried for months to find jobs, and anything we could find weren't not going to be anywhere near the income that we had enjoyed for years. So we came to the realization that we just, even if we did do that, we weren't at an age where we had time to right the ship and get back on track. So that's why I said we had to have a plan B, because plan A there was no plan A anymore.
It disappeared.
So I told Cynthia, you know what? We need to move someplace with a lower cost of living. And she said, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Las Vegas isn't the cheapest place to live. And I'm like, I'm not talking about just moving. I'm talking about moving out of the country.
And I said, what? We're going to do what? That was a huge shock.
Yeah, but after the shock was over, we both realized that honestly, we didn't have a lot of alternatives. We were either going to settle for really substandard retirement, which was not a great solution after putting in our whole adult life preparing for another alternative to that. So this was the best shot we had. So once we kind of came to agreement on that, then I started looking for where we would actually go.
Well, and what I did is I said, well, that's great. You know, I think that we can find a lower cost of living, but honestly, to uproot your whole life and move somewhere, it has to provide more than a lower cost of living. So there were other factors. And I said, that's when we're gonna sit down, we're gonna make a wish list of all the things we want in our new home abroad. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and then she said, you go find it.
Right. Oh my goodness. So you ended up in Cuenca, Ecuador. Is that right? Did I say that right, Ed?
That was close enough. It's Cuenca, Ecuador, and the C-U-N-C-A. And don't feel bad about it. Honestly, when I almost accidentally discovered it on the internet,
we didn't know
how to pronounce it. We thought it was Cuenca.
Yeah, we'd never heard of the place.
If you had,
I haven't either.
If you had given us a blank map of South America at that time and said, I'll give you $1,000 if you can show me exactly where Ecuador is, you would have kept $1,000. We had no clue. So we went from that knowledge base or lack thereof to basically what happened was I found it by accident.
Yeah.
And internet research 14 years ago wasn't like it is today at all. There was very limited information about this place, but what we found looked like everything we were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, back to that wish list, it was like, it was pretty basic stuff. We wanted a temperate climate. we wanted, we didn't have any health issues, but we wanted someplace with good health care. Of course, we've already talked about the low cost of living. And we also wanted a mid-sized city that would be walkable. We planned on not having a car and some good public transportation. So we just had some basic things that this place that we were going to show up would need to have to support, our new life abroad.
Well, and another one was that our family, our son and daughter, both live on the East Coast of the U.S., and we didn't have grandchildren at that time, but we expected that we would, and in fact, we do. So it ruled out Far East kind of places because of that first word. They're far, and we wanted to be able to, come back on a regular basis to visit our family. And honestly, it's really crazy. We were in Las Vegas, they were on the East Coast, so we were traveling back and forth that way, and it was hard to stay in touch. But now we're up and down, and it's much easier to stay in touch. People don't think about that, and we didn't. Yeah, we kind of did, but it's turned out to be more important than we realized. It was that, it's too early to call. Oh, it's too late to call.
Well, and so just to clarify this, Ecuador, which we didn't know at the time, is in the Eastern time zone. So that's why it's easy to stay in touch, as opposed to even, people in the States that are on Pacific time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sometimes have trouble with people on East Coast time.
I think that's great. That was an accident you were glad that happened, like you weren't even looking for that. Yeah. Would you suggest people that are looking to retire abroad to do the things you said, make the list like you guys did, right? Think about these things. How can we maintain the connections with the people that are important to us, right? Find a close place. So are these things that you tell people when they're wanting to retire abroad? I know that you guys are best-selling authors and you're teaching this all the time. Are these some of the things you tell people to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we do.
The wish list, that's our wish list. That might not be your wish list. For instance, the temperate climate where we live here, it's springtime all the time. We don't have seasons really, which is weird to a lot of people, but that's important to us. So if you enjoy the change of seasons, this wouldn't be a good place for you. Or if you want to be in a balmy beach climate, this isn't the place for you.
Yeah, we live in the southern highlands of the Andes. So, and even though we're close to the equator, it's the temperatures range from 50s to 70s all the time. That spring-like weather that Ed mentioned.
Yeah, we're at 8,400 feet above sea level. So that's another thing people don't understand. We don't need to get into all the details of that. But when you're at the equator, people are like, oh, God, it's got to be hot. And it is if you're on the coast, but it's all about the altitude. It's going to be the same weather wherever you are.
Yeah, so that's another thing to take into consideration. What weather are you wanting, right? When it comes to picking your location for retirement.
Well, and there are deal breakers too. For instance, within that very category, if you want temperate climate like we have, but like I told you, we're at 8,400 feet. Well, you may come here to check it out and realize you don't do well at high altitude.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Even if the temperature suits you, the being at this altitude may not suit you. So there's a lot of factors involved.
Yeah.
So you do suggest going and staying there for a little while before you go and you just move there and retire. How long do you think you should stay at the place to make sure it's something you really want to do and test it out?
We suggest as long as possible. We only, again, because of trying to preserve the money that we had managed to hang on to back in 2009, we came to Cuenca, Ecuador. We spent 10 days here. But we suggest spending as long as you possibly can, because if it works out, this is going to be your new home. So that's, again, a personal situation, but definitely what we say, put boots on the ground. Don't just depend on internet research, all those beautiful pictures you're going to find on the internet about this great location. You have to show up. You really do.
And then how does it, as far as the retirement side, how much money does a person save by retiring abroad? How much have you guys saved?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll just put it this way. We live on our Social Security budget, And within that budget, we're able to enjoy an upscale lifestyle. We live in a penthouse apartment. We go out to eat whenever we want. We do basically whatever we want. And we're not spending every penny of that budget. We're actually able to save money. So
that's amazing.
That's unheard of anywhere.
Yeah, it is. So location, you would say, is everything when it comes to retiring, when you're living on a budget. So so what would you say, like you said, make the list, but even when you're making the list, how would you budget, like create that budget into the list when picking that place abroad?
Well, the good news is there is a lot of information online, including our own website, about all sorts of places and how much it costs and all that sort of thing. I mean, if you're budget conscious, you're not going to want to retire in Switzerland because that's not a cheap place to retire, But even within France, you can't retire on a Social Security budget in Paris and walk out your front door and, oh, there's the Eiffel Tower. But we stayed in Paris in the suburbs for 2 weeks a couple of years ago and took the train in, and even that's possible. And certainly once you get outside of that, we stayed at Bordeaux for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So it's not like you think of these countries as expensive. England, certainly London's expensive, but the whole country's not expensive.
Yeah. So you have to really, once you have your wish list, then that gives you a base of what to do next. And what to do next is, all right, well, I have this much money or this much Social Security. So what does my budget need to be? How much can I afford to spend on rent? How much can I afford to spend for groceries? So all your basic things. And then you kind of back into it that way. And that tells you, all right, we're going to eliminate these locations, but all these other locations are within our budget. So that's when you start narrowing it down.
So what would be, from your guys' own experience, some things that people need to really pay attention to when deciding to retire abroad?
Well, I would say something we advise everybody to do because it's so common. Ditch the vacation mentality. People so often go someplace on vacation like, oh, honey, wouldn't it be great to live here? Well, going somewhere for a week or two is way different than 24/7, 365 in every way. And you overlook so many of the warts of a place when you're there for a short time. Like if you're at the coast, I mean, the coast is great, but you've got high maintenance costs with, the salty air. You've got insurance costs in certain areas, so forth and so on. All this stuff you got to take into consideration. Maybe that sand that's okay and kind of charming gets old. That you're tracking in all the time. Just little things like that. So that's a biggie.
And then another thing, you have to take in back to your budget, your utilities. I mean, if you live in a climate that's warm, you're going to want air conditioning. Well, you have to pay for that. Where we live in the mountains, because of the temperate climate, we don't have heating and air conditioning. Our air conditioning is opening our slider. It's like we don't need to budget for that because we don't need it.
So how does one get a visa to even go abroad?
Well, that's part of the scouting trip. You can stay in almost any country for 90 days on a tourist visa.
On a U.S. passport.
Yeah, on your passport. In a lot of countries here, Mexico, some others, you can apply and stay for another 6 months. But eventually, if you want to be legal, you have to apply for permanent residency. And that varies from country to country. It even varies from the time we got here in Ecuador to now, as far as the requirements. But you generally apply for a temporary visa that after a certain amount of time and having to stay in the country for that amount of time, you can apply for a permanent visa. But neither one of those mean you're a citizen. That is confused so often.
Yeah.
That's another whole step in the process if you actually want to apply for citizenship. And if you do, the U.S. and most other countries are okay with dual citizenship, so you don't have to
relinquish
your U.S. citizenship to become a citizen of wherever else. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
What did you guys do? Did you become citizens?
Yeah, we are permanent resident. We considered applying for citizenship, but I think we would have to know a little bit more Spanish than we do know. We do know some, but it's probably not enough to satisfy the requirement. And it's just some paperwork, and there's a fee involved.
Of course.
So we enjoy all the benefits of living in this country without having to be citizens.
You just said something that I think does scare a lot of people, the language barrier. So especially, people at retirement age, that could be a little stressful. So how did you manage that? And would you tell people maybe pick a place where they speak English, or what would you tell them?
That's certainly an option, because there are plenty of places that are great expat destinations where you can only speak English if that's your preference. But Ed, I'll let you jump in here. With technology, what it was when we arrived is not what it is today. So, and a lot of that has to do with the technology available. So chime in on that one.
Yeah, when we decided to come here, we made a sincere effort to improve our Spanish, because at that time it was Taco Bell level, and
and you did it anyway, Ed and Cynthia. You guys are brave people. I think you just wanted an adventure in your retirement. But I know you said it had more to do about money, but keep going.
Anyway, so little things like trying to get ready to move out of the country got in the way of that. And we arrived here with that same Taco Bell level Spanish and thought we were going to perish, quite honestly. But it turned out, here we still are. Hey. It turned out, number one, that people knew a little more English than we were aware. And number two, they happen to be really good at playing charades and hangman. So between acting things out and drawing little stick-man drawings, we got by. To fast forward to today with Google Translate, I mean, we had our housekeeper just here a little while ago. She doesn't speak a word of English. So when you need to tell her something specific, you just blah, blah, blah into your phone with Google Translate.
And it blah, blah, blah is back to her in Spanish. That's great. It's terrific.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so that's not an issue. So having said that, you arrive and you have your own standards as far as what you want to do. Some people are intent on becoming fluent in the language.
Yeah.
God bless you. That's not us.
Well, that wasn't on my bucket list to become fluent in Spanish, so I've never become fluent.
We are what I call functional, so we can get by with what we've got. And when we have to pull out the phone and for a supplement, we do that. I mean, you can move to a country like Belize where English is the language. Mm-hmm. Or there's a number of places, specifically in Mexico, like Lake Chapala, where there's so many expats there that it seems like Spanish is the second language instead of English. It's a crazy place to go. Yeah. So it depends on you. If you want to go off the radar somewhere and live that lifestyle, then yeah, you really need to work on being fluent. But if you move to an established expat destination, that the language of the country is almost optional.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
So how do you, I know you said apply for a residency, right? But what are the requirements to do that? Was it difficult?
No,
it's really some paperwork. You have to produce certain documents, have them apostilled, which we had no clue what that meant. Basically just certified that they're original, true documents. And you show up at the office, the immigration office, you produce all of these documents, and you have to have a waiting period. But we always recommend to use an attorney that specializes this in the country where you're going. Because, yes, some people have done it themselves, but, when you're talking about legal issues, it's best to have somebody that's your ally, and hiring somebody like this is not expensive. So it's just worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have proof of income. You have, in the case of us, you have to have a marriage certificate. You have to have a criminal report showing that you're not a criminal.
A birth certificate. Yeah, birth certificate, so that you actually, the person that standing there, that's you, right?
Yeah, but basically, I mean, like Cynthia said, there are DIY projects in life. This isn't one of them. We've known a few people that like to brag about how they did it all by themselves.
Okay.
We've known others that went into a black hole and never returned. So it's better.
See, that's what scares a person, right? So if you go get legal help from a lawyer, it will be a lot easier. So did you say in the country that you're going to, or in the United States?
No, here or wherever wherever here is.
In the country where you're going. And you would do that, you would investigate and find that out on your scouting trip. Your scouting trip isn't a vacation, it's a working trip, and you have an agenda of all the things that you want to accomplish. One of them is meeting with an immigration attorney that speaks your language so that they can outline everything that you need to either send them electronically or send them, through FedEx or DHL or whatever, however you're going to receive it. Or, and then they can go ahead and start to process your documents even before you come back. So it's, that's just the best way to go about it.
Yeah, the same thing. We shipped our stuff. And if you ship your stuff, we also recommend using a shipping company in the country you're going to, not the country you're going from.
Right.
Because the guys, wherever you are in the States, will say, they're going to say, yeah, I got this covered. But the reality is, the rules and things change a lot in these countries, and they can change from today to tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So local places on top of that sort of thing can really guide the process through better than someone on the leaving end.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's when you've been saying all this stuff, it's like, well, how do I not get conned? I mean, there's lots of scams, and I'm thinking I could see that being a business, scamming, retiree age people who are anyways wanting to come to the country and maybe scam them, lawyers, shipping. I mean, how do you find credible? I mean, do you guys have resources for that? How do people do it?
Yeah, we do. Of course.
We do, Jaime. And there are, one of the things that you're going to want to do once you identify a country or two that you're interested in is connect with the expat population that's already there. There are tons of these groups on Facebook, and you just say, hey, I'm thinking about coming here. I'm looking for an attorney. Who do you use? And then, you ask a couple people, you get a consensus, probably the same names are going to keep popping up. And then you really can't be shy about getting help from people that are already living there. And, this is part of what we teach in our program that we created is just like getting your visa is not a do-it-yourself project. This whole thing is really, you can do it on your own, but the most successful expats really depend on so many other people to help them until they are established. And it's so doable if you just embrace that idea.
Yeah, the reality is these people you reach out to on these Facebook groups, they were in your position at one time.
That's
and
true.
They reached out to people, and they're more than happy to give back. And when you successfully expatriate, you may be in a position to help somebody that's now in your position. It's just it's a paying it forward thing kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure when you have language barriers, it's nice to have friends who speak English too when you come there, right? I'm guessing that's another benefit, having people that you can meet with and talk to. So
you can help us before you ever get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's what the beauty of technology too, right? That we're able to do these types of things. So what financial planning tips would you give someone who's wanting to financially, how do they get their finances in order and everything they need to do in order to make this work for them?
Well, the first thing you need to do is, if you don't already have your whole life online, get your life online so that you can both access your money no matter where you are. I mean, you can have if you're drawing Social Security or will be, many places you can have that direct deposited in the country you're going. We chose not to do that. We have banking relations in the States. And in the beginning, we just withdrew money from ATMs to pay for things that we needed to pay for. Your investments, you can keep those in the States. I mean, all of this, you probably look at, your statements and do your business online, and so that's what we do too.
So just keep that the way it is. And I can see that would be a really good idea, because I was going to ask you that. Do I have to transfer all my banking and everything over to this country, or do I keep everything in the States? And
No,
you've just kept everything yours in the States?
right. We have a Schwab checking account, which number one doesn't charge any international transfer fee. And also, when you pull money out of ATMs, once a month, they reimburse you for all the fees. So you have access to your money basically for free.
Yeah, but that's something we didn't really jump all in to the financial part immediately. We were just concerned about basically not perishing once we got here. So we wanted to figure out how life was going to work before we started looking at, all right, do we set up a bank account? We didn't even understand the banking system. I mean, we knew it was here, but we wanted to have a real good feel for how everything worked before we started investing money. So we did that.
Well, this experience is getting me excited, and I'm thinking, you know what? The cost of living in the United States is extremely high. Many people who are over 65, they were telling me, when women came on and said, many, especially women, overall live in poverty.
Yes.
In retirement. And that's really, really sad. And the amount we get in Social Security, if you are even able to draw Social Security, some people can't even do that and have no retirement. There is no way that they're going to be able to survive. And you guys are giving people an alternative, and it seems like a very successful one. And it gives a lot of hope and promise to people that in retirement, you can live a really great life. I mean, you guys seem really happy, and I love that you're out there sharing it and helping people who want to go out there and experience the same things you guys have been experiencing, that they can do it. So I have another question for you guys, Ed and Cynthia. What does living richer mean to you?
Wow. It means to me just having the financial freedom so that you don't worry about, can you buy groceries next month? Can you pay if you're aging in place? Can you replace your hot water heater? Can you do all of those things? And that causes a lot of stress for people when they worry about their financial retirement life.
Yeah, what we've discovered, Jaime, is that retiring abroad is the only way we're aware of. Maybe other guests you've talked to or whatever you research has a different alternative, but retiring abroad is the only way we know to achieve what we have discovered is the retirement trifecta. And it's all the stuff we've been talking about. Number one of the trifecta, you lower your cost of living. Number two, you raise your standard of living. And number three, you preserve or even grow your nest egg. I mean, that seems like those three things can't go together, but living abroad, they do. And we've been living them for 14 years.
We've achieved that.
I noticed you had a maid, so I was like, whoa, they're living high.
Well,
but the cost of labor here is not that expensive. That's why you can afford to have a maid. You can afford to hire an attorney. I mean, we don't have a car, so we've hired a driver to drive us, in places in the countryside. And this is about raising your standard of living, but it doesn't cost that much.
Yeah, just to give you a real direct number, we make more than this with a Social Security, but with our penthouse apartment, yoga studio, gym memberships, eating out whenever, blah, 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 our monthly budget is about $2,000.
With all that. Doing all those things you just said.
Yeah, and then obviously having the rest of the money to invest in CDs here that incredibly pay twice what they pay in the United States, but that's another whole episode.
My goodness, I didn't even know about that. And then you're able to travel too, right? You've picked a place that's easy for you to go visit your family, and that's really important to people. I think that's what a lot of people worry about, is losing those connections with their family. And I can see that you were still able to do that as well when you picked your location.
That was a priority for us.
Plus, we discovered the beauty of points and miles. So we put as much on credit cards as we can now to offset the travel costs to do the things that we do.
So it's just sounds wonderful. And what about my listeners that are wanting, or viewers that are wanting to know how they can do it? Where can they go to find more about that? I know you have a book, but do you guys have any other tools you might recommend before we go here?
Well, we just happen to have a website.
But we give away a lot of free information. We have reports that people can opt in for. We've been doing running this website for a number of years, so there's a lot of great information. We write a blog about things that just what it's like, what everyday life is like as an expat. So yeah, go to our website, and then you can always write us. We're happy to respond and answer specific questions, and we're out there to try to help people.
Yeah,
so Ed and Cynthia, what's the website? Are you going to say Ed? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just our name, www.eddandcynthia.com, and I spell my name with 2 Ds. So eddandcynthia.com is how you find.
And it's a great world, it sounds like. And it's a world where, you can live richer, that you can actually, I can't believe, invest and save money in retirement and have that life you've always dreamed of. And one thing I really want people to know is that Ed and Cynthia are extremely nice. I promise you, if you reach out to them, they will answer your questions. They answered them to me super fast and easy when I emailed them about this. They're lovely people, and I know they'll hold your hand and help you have that same life that they have and that you dream of in retirement.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I want to say to you, we were so excited to be on this show because the title of your show, Live Richer, is exactly what we're doing. So, and I don't think you've had expats on the show before. So
we haven't.
We're really happy to be able to spread the gospel, so to speak, that this is really a pretty cool choice.
It is a cool choice. And I think it gives people an option, right? It gives them an option that they don't have to live in poverty in retirement. Like you said, how stressed out you were and you didn't know what you were going to do. There are options, and this is an option for people. And thank you for going out and actually sharing it, because a lot of people do things, but they don't share it. And I love that you're doing that. And I want to remind all of my viewers and all my listeners to know that go out there and live richer.